So Graham, how the heck do you begin to organize a revolution? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if it's possible. I think everyone's been so propagandized and so easily. Look how easily the left is divided. Look how the left got so divided so quickly. Everyone's fighting with each other. And then you've got people with big followings who are just taking crazy right-wing stances just because they're going to disagree with anything the liberal media, like liberals they've been attacked by, like Glenn Greenwald and Jimmy Dore have been attacked by the liberal media and liberals in general to such a scathing degree. And it's awful what's happened to them, that now they're just taking right-wing stances just to be contrarian. And that's bad. That's bad. And that's dividing the left, because now you're hearing just flat out right-wing views, and the minimization of the white nationalists' involvement with January 6th. I don't think you can organize anything. The only thing people have been able to organize, which again is like labor movements for their specific jobs. I don't think America is capable of doing a general strike. I don't think America is capable of that. I don't think any organization, anything, somebody organizes anything, it gets infiltrated, and then there's some scandal. I mean, look at the People's Party. Oh, there was a Me Too thing, and now everyone's fighting about that. And so that's Democratic operatives came over to the People's Party to deliberately blow it up. This happened with, I mean, how many movements can we talk about in the last 4 or 5 years, 6 years, since 2016? Draft Bernie, what was that one TYT started with Kyle Kalinske, Justice Democrats? They always start out as a good idea, and then they get infiltrated, and then everyone starts fighting with each other. Or there's some Me Too, somebody weaponizes Me Too against someone. And so now everyone's fighting about all this crap and no one's working together. The CIA is absolutely causing the left to be divided. The public, look, private intelligence, I see this on Twitter all the time. Like someone will say, like back in March or something like that. I don't know. I got mad and made fun of Jimmy. I think I said something about, I can't remember. Who gives a fuck? Something, whatever. And people clipped that out and made a whole thing about it. And I see these accounts on Twitter, and I might just start calling them out, because it's just like when they're like, look at Graham. And so that they clipped out and put it on Reddit or something like that. And one of these people put this on Twitter. And the reason I don't like responding to those people is I don't want to give them any sort of platform at all. But it should be pointed out, because this one tweet was like, look at Graham, blah, blah, blah. And they had just posted the tweet, and it had 5 likes immediately. And I was like, oh, wow. And I looked at all 5 of the accounts. They all had 0 followers. And I was like, oh, these are bots. So either the person that made the tweet has a bot farm that they use, or private intelligence just attaches to this. So the people you got to look out for, unfortunately, are the people with like big followings whose profile, their Twitter looks very lefty, Medicare for all, free Assange. And then when they start attacking me, or they're just stirring up fights within the left, I'm always like suspect of them. Because, Dr. Cornel West and Chris Hedges are never fighting with anybody on the left. Even I'm sure there's people they don't agree with. They just won't do it, because they understand the cause and the movement is more important than some sort of petty disagreement. So what you're seeing, there's people who are paid to do it, and then they personality profile you, so they know what buttons to push. So it's obvious when somebody which I know they like, because I get annoyed easily when technology goes bad. I'm sure they've tried to fuck with my technology to make me mad. Like, I'm sure that they've tried to do that. It's and when they try to stir this stuff up, I'm very leery. And I've talked to Susie Dawson about this. Anybody that has like a free Assange account, not that there's plenty of people with who are who want to free Julian Assange, and that's in their Twitter profile, and they're legitimate Assange activists, and that's the cause that's important to them. That's a great cause to find important. But there's a lot of them with big followings, and they stir up shit. And Susie's like, be careful for some of these accounts. They stir up shit. They're some of them are just Assange cult members. But wasn't it interesting? And Susie said this to me last summer when I put that tweet out there that said people have the right to not take the vaccine and live performers have the right to ask for proof of vaccine or negative test. Our body's our choice, right? So all I was saying was I'm a live performer who's putting himself at risk being on stage in front of a bunch of people, and I have the right to ask for that. And some live performers didn't care. Some live performers like, you don't need to show this. So, and she goes, Graham, you were deliberately targeted. It was very obviously I was targeted because people went nuts. And a lot of that was fueled, and they know how to fuel hysteria, and they know how to get people to push their buttons emotionally. And so they already have all of these people in place. And it was interesting because it was all of these, like a lot of these like free speech, these so-called free speech lefties wanted to cancel me, to censor me, and shut me down just because they didn't agree with that. And none of them respected my right to say, I have the right to be safe, right? And those people would rather defend like a right-wing Nazi fascist. They'll defend their right to freedom of speech. But my right to just say, I have the right to ask for things. And they're like, and people said I was forcing the vaccine. I wasn't. I said in the writing, or negative test, come to the show and take a negative test. I'm fine with that. Or don't come. I wasn't forcing anybody to do anything. And suddenly I was this Nazi, and Susie went, Graham, you were targeted. And I saw some of these key accounts with big followings trying to stir stuff up. And some of them are like, then they try to like, Panquake is suspect. So you really have to see, you have to pay. And it's hard when you're getting attacked at the time to not get pissed off and be like, fuck these people. But when you choose to do this, I'm stand in front of people on a camera, you see how they target you. And you see how private intelligence works. And I was absolutely targeted over the summer when I made that tweet and everyone got flipped out on me. And that's when I said, well, fuck you. And I started making those mandate videos. And they show up in the chat every once in a while. You know, there's probably some here now, and they're private intelligence. Yeah, exactly. Eric Husseau, who I know Eric doesn't agree with me, but he still supports the show. Because Eric's not private intelligence, to my knowledge. He hasn't exhibited any characteristics to be private intelligence, and he writes something very applicable. No one who is for free speech would cancel anyone, right? So these so-called, I mean, there was a phone call Susie let me hear of some woman calling up saying this Graham Elwood's doji, some Australian chick, was trying to undermine me and trying to get me out of being involved in Panquake, which you kind of see what their end game is. Panquake is the threat. So anyone that's involved with Panquake, they did a lot of shit, man. I mean, they tried to undermine Susie. They tried to undermine any of the endorsers. They tried to get other endorsers to not like other endorsers. Like they tried to get endorsers of Panquake to fight with each other so that like some people would start like jumping ship. They tried to get that to happen. Susie told me there were some like really very key people that suddenly were like not responding to her. And she finally had to reach out to them and they were like, well, I heard this and this. And she's like, that's not true. So people were trying to do it to me. I think Panquake is the big threat. Panquake is clearly the big threat to them. So, and when you've got Bill Binney involved and John Kiriakou involved, well, that's an NSA and a CIA whistleblower. So they don't like those guys. So you'll notice like when I interviewed John Kiriakou last month, those are my least watched videos, really, with John Kiriakou. They're throttled, right? So if I were to do videos calling out and fighting other indie left media outlets, those videos would go through the roof. First of all, people love a fight, a schoolyard fight, you know, but they would pump those up because they'd be like, oh, sweet, the left is fighting with each other. So that's why when I say anything like that, and it's like all the times I've gotten mad on this show, all the times I've lost my cool on this show, usually because of technology. And that was a technology thing. My computer crashed. I was 35 minutes late starting Government Secrets. I was fucking furious. I was hungry. And then somebody texted me something and I just went off because that's what I do. I'm a comedian. I go off on tirades sometimes. It's funny. Like of all the times I've gotten mad on this show, can't block somebody, gotten pissed off at the technology, fucking lost my temper. None of those were clipped out. But the one time where I say something negative about, where I'm angry or say something negative about Jimmy, that's the one that gets clipped out. Interesting. When Jimmy was on my game show, Anything Can Happen, we did it live at the All Things Comedy Studio. This is in like 2019. This is pre-pandemic. And he came on the show and started busting my balls about not performing more, something like that. And he was being kind of a dick about it. And I kind of busted his balls back. Like we kind of got into a little bit of an argument. Then we sort of laughed it off and went in and played the game. And the next night I saw him at a comedy club and he came up to me and was like, "Hey man, you need to be performing more. And and you've always been funny, but your political comedy, you got to get on stage more and stuff like that." And I said, "Jimmy, I really appreciate that. But when you came on my show, you were being a fucking asshole." He's like, "Yeah, I know. Sorry." So people are trying to start some fight between us. We're two comedians who've known each other for 30 years. We're both comics from Chicago. There's going to be some shit talking. I'm here to tell you. There's going to be some arguments. There's going to be some shut the fuck up. That's how comics from Chicago talk to each other. We're not like meow, 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 meow. So it's funny. There was an argument we had on my show 3 years ago. Nobody clipped that out because we said, fuck you, whenever we busted balls and moved on with the show and had fun. So when they just find one little thing to clip out, it's always like, oh, this is what they're trying to do. And then someone on Twitter, and they won't have like a huge following, but they'll have like 3, 4, 5,000 followers, maybe 1,500, but they won't have like 100 followers. Somebody with like less than 200, 300 followers, I'm always that whatever. But, and if their thing is all like Medicare for all, free Assange, freedom, then I'm always like leery that they're really trying to show everybody how lefty they are when in fact they're paid by private intelligence, or at the very least, they're getting manipulated by private intelligence and they're too dumb to know it. Private intelligence is very sophisticated. Shit talk is the first language of Chicagoans. Yes, it is. You need to be angry in a funny way, like threaten to smash eggs in your head if someone keeps pissing you off. While it would be funny to literally do that, I'm just giving an example. Yeah. This show is, it's not easy to do this show and talk about, it's almost always bad news, and to always be in a great mood, and to always, like, oh, I should always have this perfect reaction to everything. That's not realistic. Nobody's that. Nobody can do that. Yeah, I think your gunny gun rant was better. Your rant defending Bitcoin was epic too, even though I don't agree with Bitcoin.